Hello, good morning. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so very good to be here with each and every one of you as we celebrate the magnificence and significance of the power and presence, mind of God, flowing in, through, and as us. Let us begin, as we always do, with prayer. And so I invite you to center yourself into this present moment by taking a breath. We breathe in and we breathe out. We breathe in and we breathe out. Let us take a breath in and take a breath out. There is one mind, one power, one presence that is working in all, through all, and as all. There is one mind common to all. It is the mind in which we live, move, and have our being. There is one power that is power in, through, and as all. It empowers us to be, do, or have all things. There is one presence. It is present in all, common to all, present as love, present as wisdom, present as intelligence, present as joy, present as ease, present as solutions, present as answers, present as a healing balm, present as comfort, present as nurturing. There is one mind, one power, one presence that is working in us, through us, and as us, that is working in you, through you, and as you, that is working in me, through me, and as me. I recognize that this mind, this power, this presence is Mother, Father, God, and it is right here, right now. God, my friend, neither comes nor goes, but is always present right here and right now. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. There is no spot where God is not, where love is not, where answers are not, where ease is not, where healing is not, where comfort is not. We recognize this truth right here and right now on this day. And as we recognize that the power and presence is, as we recognize that the power and presence is omnipresence, constantly encountered, always available, at all times, in all spaces, in all places, under all conditions, in all experiences, we remember that we are one with this mind, this power, this presence. You are one with this mind, with this power, with this presence. You are one with this answer, with this ease, with this grace, with this comfort, with this nurturing, with this healing, with the answers, with the solutions. You are one with this beautiful, awesome power. And as we recognize our oneness, this means that we have power. This means that we have great possibility. This means that the things that we see outside of us are not an indicator of who and what we are. So right here and right now, we lean into the truth of who and what we are, and we speak from the awareness, from the consciousness of who and what and who and whose we are. From this place of awareness, I know that this gathering is a gathering in consciousness that reminds us that we're worthy. That this gathering is a gathering in consciousness that reminds us that we are prosperous now. This is a gathering in consciousness that heals us, that comforts us, that brings us answers, that brings us ease, that brings us the things that we absolutely desire, that supports us in thriving in our day, that supports us and empowers us in thriving in our week. I know that we will leave this experience different than when we walked in. We will leave this experience with new possibility. We will leave this experience with a new knowing. We will leave this experience in our right minds. We will leave this experience to act rightly. We will leave this experience to act justly. We will leave this experience to act lovingly. We will leave this experience loving ourselves. We will leave this experience loving others. I am so grateful and thankful for this gathering of centered minds, of love-centered minds that are choosing to be the God experience on the earth. So it is with great joy and thanksgiving that I release this prayer, knowing it is already done, knowing it is already responded to, knowing that the feeling tone is being responded to by life itself at every level of life, at every dimension of life simultaneously. So we relax, so we rest, And relaxing into this knowing, we lift up our voices and we say, Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
So it is.
And so it is. So it must be. Yes, yes. Well, good morning again. Hello. Happy Sunday. It is so very good to be here with each and every one of you on this Sunday morning or whatever time you may be finding yourself watching the stream, knowing that we're going to have a good time and knowing that something will be said, done that will empower us and support us in moving throughout our weeks as the empowered souls and beings that we are. We, of course, want to shout out our first-time guests. If you are joining us for the very first time, hello, welcome to CSC. You may already realize that this ain't your grandma's church. This ain't your mama's church. It might not even be your cousin's church. But we, of course, hold a specific knowing. We are a New Thought metaphysical community, interfaith community that teaches the truth that God is present in and as all things, that God is present in all spiritual traditions, and we endeavor to actually pull from those traditions in a loving way, while also honoring the tradition of the Black church experience in many ways to do that. So welcome, because I guarantee you will have a good time here, and it's wonderful to have you. So what you see here on your screen is how you access the digital connection card. That is how you can stay in touch with us, and we can stay in touch with you. Just text the word welcome, text the word welcome to the phone number 347-472-1078. Just the word welcome. No additional information is needed. Once you do that, you'll receive a reply text with a link. That link is to the digital connection card. Click the link, enter your information. Please complete all of the fields. It just asks for your name, your email, and that's it, because your phone number, when you text, it receives that. So it's important, especially, that your email address is included, because we can't put you on the mailing list without that. Once you've entered the information, submitted it, you'll receive another text that says you're all set, and indeed you are. And you'll receive our weekly email that goes out on Fridays and any other information or correspondence that needs to be sent out to the community. But again, we are so happy that you chose to be here with us. We are confident that you will receive something that will support you in having an empowered week, that will support you in thriving. So let's get into our announcements so that we can move forward with the meditation experience, the music, and the message. Giving statements have been sent out via email to all donors. So if you have questions or concerns, or you did not receive a giving statement, first make sure that you did give in 2022. And if you're sure that you gave in 2022, then definitely send an email to our giving support team at givingsupport@celebrationsc.org, and we'll check in on it and ensure that everything is okay with that and get you a statement. One of the things that's important for everyone, if you have received that email, you'll see in the email that there's a button to download your statement, and that link expires. It's secure. Very important that it is secure. So please make sure that as soon as you see the email, or if you missed it last weekend, that you check and download it immediately, because that link does expire. Even if you're not planning on doing your taxes until April, right? Whatever it may be, you want to make sure that you have that statement, because you will not be able to download that forever. And of course, if you miss the download time and it expires, then again, send an email to Giving Support so that our team can support you. Every Wednesday morning, we gather together for prayer at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Momentum Prayer Call. The Momentum Prayer Call is a way to continue the momentum that we create on Sunday. It is a way to jumpstart the momentum of your day in the middle of the week. We gather together and share a reading, and we pray, and we are led in prayer, and then we move on with our day. That prayer is recorded, so in addition to the phone number and the access code, there's also a playback number. You can access the most recent prayer call, the most recent prayer, I should say, anytime, 24/7. It's always available to you. And the web link is for those, particularly if you're outside of the United States and you want to join or cannot call that phone number for any reason. That web link will support you in connecting to the prayer call. Additionally, those that are on our mailing list in the weekly email, we also share a link for you to listen to that most recent prayer online, which is, I think, pretty convenient. Next month, starting on the first Monday in February, which is February 6th, we will be starting our month of prayer. So instead of just the Wednesday mornings, we will be gathered together Monday through Friday, starting February 6th, with prayer for each day of the week. It's a wonderful time. It builds upon itself. It's a very wonderful thing. This Momentum Prayer Call for the month will also support our sermon series, which is going to be a series based on prayer and focused on affirmative prayer and spiritual mind treatment. So these things work together, and I encourage everyone to plan to join us throughout the week for the Momentum Prayer Call in February. If you have a prayer request, you can send that prayer request to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org, and we will know the truth with you. That prayer request is received by our prayer champions. It is also received by PY and myself. We continue to hold each and every one of you in prayer, specifically and intentionally, and it is always wonderful to have a sense of the needs of the community, have a sense of what's going on, and be able to speak that word specifically. Additionally, you can always send a prayer request on behalf of someone else, a loved one, something that may be going on in their lives, whatever it may be, right? No request is too large or too small. What you are doing by sending out that prayer request is reminding yourself that there's support, reminding yourself that you are supported, not just by people specifically, but it actually is an energetic recognition of that support. And so you are opening up your heart and mind to receive guidance, insight, direction that may be yours to do. And finally, we encourage you to invite someone to join us here on Sunday mornings. CSC has always been, has grown really based on word of mouth. And so it is by you letting someone know about CSC or inviting someone to CSC that we continue to grow and thrive. And so again, we encourage you to invite someone, send them a link to previously recorded service, send them a link to a sermon that you think may resonate with them, and that'll give them a sense of what's going on their own time, of what CSC is all about. And if it interests them, then you can invite them to join us live on Sunday morning. That concludes our announcements for today. And now we have the wonderful opportunity to move forward with meditation and the meditation experience led by Pastor Yolanda.
Ah, yes, it is time. It is time to go within. There are so many things that we could focus on that are external. There are so many things that we can focus on out there in the world that can take our attention, our focus, our everything away in appearance. But there is something that you are connected to. PG spoke to it in the prayer, that this thing is within us, this power, this knowing that all is well. If we are focused externally, we may lose sight of the all is well. We may lose sight of our peace if we're focused out there. And so we spend time every Sunday going within, remembering the truth, and remembering that we are connected to answers. We are connected to peace. Because as we've said this month, the peace of God is shining in us now. It can never be extinguished, this peace. It can be forgotten, but it never is extinguished. We don't have to do anything to get more peace. We don't have to do anything or be more worthy or look a certain way or be a certain age or have certain accomplishments. The peace of God is shining in us now. eternally shining. We spend this time reminding ourselves of the truth because this peace, this loving presence has never forgotten. Let us go back home. Let us remember. Let it shine from us and extend out into the world that is so in need of a peaceful reminder. So let's go ahead and prepare ourselves to go home, to return again and again to the peace. Look around the room. Notice where you are. Seated upright, but comfortably, in a chair, on your bed, on your sofa. And from this place, plant the palms on the tops of the thighs. Let that little subtle contact of thigh and palm bring you even more present. Notice it. Notice that feeling. Align the ears over the shoulders, shoulders over hips. Nice, comfortable, relaxed posture. And now, close your eyes. For it is so easy to remember the truth if we take the time to breathe. We take the time to experience God. We take the time to remember that we are not alone. We take the time to feel the peace. And as we settle, each breath will support us in relaxing more and more and more. Let's begin that inward journey with the breath. And for a few rounds, let's just notice. Whether the breath appears to be deep or appears to be shallow, it matters not. What matters is we are connected to the breath, we are connected to the peace, and both are always flowing. Beautiful, everyone. Now let's take conscious control of the breath and send that breath low into the belly. For as we elongate the breath, we send the signal to relax, that there is nothing to be afraid of, that there is nothing to heighten our senses around. We are home and we are safe. Sending the breath low into the belly. Together, let's inhale on a count of 4. Inhale. Hold it there. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, and release whatever you've been holding this week. Sigh it out. Inhale into the low belly. Drop that breath low. Expand. Hold. And without collapsing the body, release the breath. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding the front and the sides and the back of the body, making more room for breath. Hold it there. And now sigh it out. Again, in through the low belly, finding more places as that breath rises, expanding, holding. And as we hear the sound of the breath releasing, let it all go in your mind. Moving that breath, moving that prana all the way in and up through the heart, rising, holding there. And releasing. Again, the best breath you've ever felt is this breath in and all the way up. Hold it there. And now sigh it out. The best breath you've ever felt is this breath, breathing all the way in and up. Holding it at the top. And when you're ready, close the lips, exhale through the nose, nice and easy. This in, full breath, and out through the nose is how we will breathe for the remainder of our meditative time. Each breath signaling that we are open and available to breath, to the next breath, the next breath, the next. That we are open and available to the peace on each breath. That we are open, available, and willing to allow the peace to shine in us now. Let's take a couple more of those. There is no rush. Beautiful, everyone. And now let's send that breath, that energy that flows into the feet. Maybe you wiggle the toes, raise the heels. But bring your awareness and your breath to the feet. Stop the movement. Relax the feet. We feel that energy, that peace rising up through the soles of the feet, crossing the ankles. Relax the ankles. As we become a more open channel, in this moment, energy flows across the shins and the calves. Relax the shins. Relax the calves. We become more flexible in our understanding. We become more open to truth. Allow that energy to flow across the knees. We bend. We align. We forgive ourselves and we set ourselves free. Relax the knees. This energy, this flow of energy cannot be stopped. We allow it to transmute any tightness, any fear, any doubt. As it flows across the thighs, the glutes, the hamstrings, relax the thighs, relax the glutes and the hamstrings. The peace of God is shining in us now. Imagine that light animating each of your chakras. Imagine that light making its way in and up. Take the breath. Exhale. Allow. In and up. Exhale. Allow. In and up. Exhale. Allow. The energy keeps rising as the peace becomes more evident. The energy keeps rising as the love becomes more present. The energy keeps rising as the peace shines even more. As it flows out the crown of our head, we are open and available, gathering all that we need, sending all that needs to be sent to those we love, those we do not know. For the peace of God is shining everywhere at the same time. Allowing that energy to flow back down through the crown, across the third eye, down the throat, across the shoulders. If you notice any tension, relaxing it there, sending it down the arms, out the fingertips. Go ahead and scan your body. Notice if you're still holding any tension. Lovingly send the light there, the peace there, the truth there, that you are eternally held and connected. Can you relax the eyes a little more? Behind the eyes, the forehead, the back if you're holding tension. As we prepare for our silent time, you can leave the palms turned down or turn them up if you'd like to receive more. I will monitor the time. If the mind wanders, it's okay. We are grateful that the mind thinks. We are grateful that we have a mind at our disposal. We bring it lovingly, gently back to our affirmative thought this month. The peace of God is shining in me now. And as we remember that thought, we gently let it go and just feel the peace shining, always shining, shining in you and shining in me now. With our eyes still closed, we remember that all minds are joined, that all minds have access to the same power and peace. We remember that the peace of God is shining in us now, and from our heart it extends around the world. And this peace pauses to caress every living thing. And it leaves a blessing wherever it has been. It is eternal, and it can never, ever be extinguished. Let us lovingly, gently begin to return. If the palms are turned up, turn them down, making that contact with the thighs, and gathering and returning with our peace, leaving behind what no longer serves us in favor of who and whose we are. Bring the palms together at heart center and bow the chin towards the fingertips. Slowly flutter the eyes open, nice, easy, soft gaze, no strain on the eyes. Inhale, raise the chin. Release the breath. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
Please feel free to come back to this meditation at any time, incorporate it into your daily spiritual practice, incorporate it into your week whenever you need to go within, whenever you need to reset, to recharge. This moment is available to you, and I pray that you make use of it. So now it is our time to hear from Soul 21. And after we hear from Soul 21, I will join you on the other side as we close this month's message series, My Soul is Anchored. And I will be speaking to you from the topic today, Healing is a Team Sport. I'll see you on the other side. But healing is available for you. And so just knowing that, you can bring gratitude to the idea that healing is available. We shared the story of Patrice Cullors, one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, who chose to take 6 months off from the movement when she was feeling lots of distress. And so as we recognize that that is possible, we're grateful. We're grateful that that healing is possible, that that restoration is possible, that that reset is possible. And then for those of us that have experienced that healing, taken that time to care for ourselves, taken that time to enjoy the well-being that always exists, we're grateful and thankful for this healing, because it is rooted in the underlying idea that we sing about, teach about, that God is good and only good, and that good is expressed in every way at all times, and it is always available, because God does not come or go. It is right here, right now. Thank you for the healing. Thank you for the healing. Thank you for my healing. Oh, love, you are good. Soul 21, can we sing that?
Thank you for the healing.
We are grateful and we are thankful.
Thank you for the healing.
And so we let this healing wash over us.
Thank you for the healing.
We allow ourselves to be refreshed by the good. for the healing.
Thank you for the healing.
So grateful that healing is available.
Thank you for the healing.
So grateful that refreshment and restoration is right here, right now. We say thank you for it.
Thank you for the healing.
Oh love,
Oh Lord,
you are good.
you are good. Thank you for the healing. Thank you for the healing. Thank you for my healing. Oh, love, you are good. You are good. You are Thank you for my healing. Oh Lord, oh Lord, you are good. In every way, Thank you for my healing. Oh Lord, you are so good. Think about your life. Thank you for the healing. Can you claim the good? Oh Lord, can you claim the good right now? Can you feel the Thank you for the healing. Oh Lord, you are. Bring your mind to that place where God is good in you, where life has been good. Or maybe it's a time where you didn't think life was good, and something brought you out of that place of darkness. Something within you said, rise up. Something within you said you're worthy. Something within you said you have all power. Bring yourself to that place and allow that knowingness to transform whatever you're going through right now. Right now, if something is blocking you, if something is making you feel unworthy, if something is making you question your goodness, bring that thing right now. Bring the God that is good, that is saying we're good. Can we say we're good? Can we say we're good? Can we claim our goodness? A Course in Miracles says that you are sinless. Claim your sinlessness. Claim your goodness. Bring your hand to your heart and say, I'm good. Bring all those doubts in your mind to yourself and say, I'm good.
Yes, yes, yes. We are grateful. We are thankful for the healing, knowing that God itself is good and available to us at all times to experience that good. Grateful and thankful to know that healing is available, and this is a lot of what we've been talking about. That song is really a song of gratitude as we think about where we have moved throughout this month and throughout this series. Thankful and grateful, and thankful and grateful to Soul 21, thankful and grateful to PY for supporting us in song with that powerful, powerful knowingness. Well, hello again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy Sunday. It is very good to be here with each and every one of you as we move forward with the final sermon in our series, My Soul is Anchored. And this idea of our soul is anchored is an understanding of where we actually live, move, and have our being, an understanding that we are grounded in something that is supporting us always and supporting us specifically when we make ourselves aware and remember, open our awareness to the fact that we are anchored in this thing that we call God that is available to us always, 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 always. So in week one, we started with the sermon, System Overload, setting up the reality and the understanding and hopefully bringing some ease to our lives and to our minds that this society that we live in is actually abnormal. And the society that we live in is overloading our nervous systems with information, a swirl of events happening all the time. And we have access to all of this information all of the time. There's so many things going on, and it overloads our system. Not only the collective systemic things that are happening, but then we have the things that are happening in our individual lives, in our communities. We have the things that may be happening in our careers. And what happens, because we are overloaded, we are unable to properly respond to life. And so most of the world is actually living from fight or flight response. And that has become normalized. We think that's the way to live. We think that's the way to respond. We're taught that that's the way to engage with life and engage with each other. But what if the truth is that we just have a bunch of stressed out minds out here? And so everyone is living from that place. No one is accessing the CEO of the mind. The CEO's place is vacant. Nobody is accessing the prefrontal cortex, that space which can reason and look at things and ascertain what's really going on, and then support to calm our nervous system down. So we acknowledge that our systems are overloaded in one way or another. And so the remainder of this series is really about learning to lower our threshold for pain, learning to unload our systems. And so in week two, the sermon Pull Over was all about that the first thing we must do, now that we've acknowledged that our system is overloaded, it's like being in a rainstorm, a torrential rainstorm or snowstorm, where the visibility is really low and you're moving slow, but you're trying to keep going. And eventually you get to the point where you realize, I have to just pull over. I can't continue to move forward in this storm, because if I do, I may harm myself, I may harm someone else, I may destroy my vehicle. It's the safest thing to do is to pull over and wait for the conditions to change. And what I shared in that sermon, I said, now what some people do, they pull over, wait for the conditions to change, and then go back out, but never made any internal changes. And so we recognize that the pull over in our lives is then the opportunity to start to make changes and develop new habits, healthier habits to live in the world. And that requires our relating, repeating, and reframing, right? We need to develop a relationship with something that supports and sustains and inspires hope and inspires and sustains change. Then we need to repeat that thing, that community, whatever it may be, must then give the space to repeatedly make those changes, knowing that you'll make mistakes, knowing that sometimes you'll fall down, and supporting you and getting back up, right? There's no judgment in that space. And then finally, reframe. That space must be a place that supports you in changing the story and reframing what you may have thought to be true, so that you can develop new habits and new ways of being. last week, we don't manage stress. If we don't manage stress, then what do? We release it. Excuse me. And so in last week's message, it was all about learning how to release stress, understanding that that's a different way of being in the world, right? Stress management is a thing. You can read articles and find all kinds of wonderful things about how to manage stress. But that's not the actual empowered way to live. And so by lowering our threshold for pain, we can actually begin to release stress, because so often we have a high threshold for pain because we're like, oh, I can deal with this, or oh, it's not that bad, or I'll deal with it next week, or maybe it'll just go away, right? We do all of these things that we're really just keeping a high threshold for pain. We want to get to the point, and as spiritually mature folks, we come to the point where we understand that as soon as that pain, pay attention inward now, as soon as that pain shows up, that's what we begin to do. We pay attention. We pay attention inward now. We pull over because we recognize this is an invitation and an opportunity to make a change that will empower us in living greater lives. And I talked about there, then we stop rescheduling joy. See, that's one of the ways that we manage pain, and that's one of the ways that we keep a high threshold for pain. So as we get into this final message, first I want to apologize because there's something that I shared in the beginning, in the first week, that while beneficial, there's additional information that's come to me that I wasn't aware of. And so I think it's important that I share that and speak to it a bit. And it's about a text that I recommended, and a text that you've heard us refer to at different times. The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. Now, as I said, I recommended it. I've read the text, and I think there are some beneficial things in the text. But one of the things that I didn't consider, and I should say first as just an asterisk, that the way that text is written, it's written from a very academic perspective. One of the things that van der Kolk said as that text became popular since really popular from 2020 forward. And he was surprised because he's like, I didn't really write this for sort of the general population, for general consumption. And so because of that, it does not... it's not written with a level of care. And so there are a lot of traumatic experiences, traumatic descriptions of violence and rape that are written in the text without sort of setting you up in a way that would be trauma informed. And so if you've experienced trauma in your life and you're looking to a text like that to get support, that's probably not the best text for that reason alone. And I think that's something that needs to be stated. And as I've been delving into that a little more, and hearing about some people's experience with the text, I think that's very important to acknowledge, that unfortunately this text really does lack care. And so this is not something that I can recommend to just anyone to read as you're thinking about trauma and trauma stored in the body. The title is powerful. The Body Keeps the Score, because it's absolutely true. Additionally, there are some other issues with van der Kolk as a leader in the organization that he created. He was actually removed from that organization because there were allegations of sexual misconduct, not by him, but by others in the organization. And he may or may not have been aware of it. He may or may have not sort of cast it aside, which brings a lot of things into question. We're thinking about trauma, talking about trauma and violence and how that affects each person. And so one would want a level of care from the leader of that organization that's writing about these things, and that seemed to be missing. Additionally, one of the things that has been uncovered is that the work in this text is actually predated by the work of Dr. Nadine Burke, who is a Black woman. You may know her. She was named as the first Surgeon General of the state of California, a brilliant, powerful sister whose work I love and did not realize this connection. And while her work and research predates The Body Keeps the Score, and The Body Keeps the Score seems to reference it, but never directly quotes or cites her, which is problematic, particularly within an academic sense and setting. So with that said, this is no longer a text that I can lovingly recommend. And so I want to give you a couple other texts to think about, to consider as you consider understanding how trauma is stored in the body, understanding how to release that. And so first we start with Dr. Nadine Burke, her text, The Deepest Well. And specifically where I was introduced to her work is understanding adverse childhood experiences. That's some of the where the focus of her work has been, and understanding trauma in children, and again, those adverse childhood experiences and how that shows up in our lives and affects us. So The Deepest Well by Dr. Nadine Burke, absolutely, I recommend. Also, and I'm sure this is one that many of you are familiar with, My Grandmother's Hands by Brother Resma Menakem. A powerful text, powerful brother. This is specifically looking at racialized trauma in Black and brown bodies in this country. Something that you definitely want to take a look at. And finally, What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu. These are texts that are trauma informed, right? In the sense of there's a level of care and the way that they are written. I also think that these texts and many times are more accessible than The Body Keeps the Score, because again, The Body Keeps the Score wasn't written with the general population in mind. So again, I want to offer that information, offer that apology, offer that clarification. I think it's important. So often we're specific about highlighting problematic portions of text, particularly with a lot of New Thought writers. We are very intentional about sometimes just avoiding certain texts and avoiding certain writers. And so it's important that you have that information as you're doing the work of your own healing. So this past Thursday, it was announced that the video footage of the murder of our dear brother Tyree Nichols would be released by the Memphis police the following day. And before seeing the video, before having access to the video footage, it was described by the Memphis police chief as quote unquote inhumane. She said that it quote left her horrified, disgusted, sad, and confused. And so there was already a sense that we were going to see something, we were going to witness something that was unprecedented. She even talked about it in her mind, this video being worse than what she witnessed in 92 in the video footage of the LAPD officers beating Rodney King within an inch of his life. And so additionally, then there were preemptive calls for peaceful protests, calls to not be violent in any way, recognizing what this video may ignite within public reaction. And so as I received this news, as this announcement came, I realized how appropriate and timely this month's series is and what we've been talking about, because you see, this right here is a living alarm moment, right? I talked about in the text, The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Asmate, he talks about in our community, when we see evidence of mental health challenges, when we see evidence of addiction and drug and alcohol misuse or abuse, when we see dis-ease showing up in our bodies or in our communities and individuals, they're like living alarms saying, hey, there's something going on with society. And so, of course, this is a moment that is doing the very same thing. It's a living alarm. It's saying, hello, pay attention inward now, America. Pay attention inward now. As I said, the thing that Dr. Martin Luther King was doing in his ministry was not teaching individual salvation, was not teaching that individuals need to get saved and get right with God so they can go to heaven. That was not what he was teaching. But he indeed was teaching and preaching that America must change its heart and its mind. That's what repentance is, right? it must choose differently so that it can have a different experience. This is a living alarm moment. This is also a system overload moment. This is one of those moments where we absolutely don't know what to do in many cases, what to say. We are filled with sadness. We are filled with rage. We are filled with anger. We are filled with disappointment. We are filled with not feeling safe. We are filled with so many different feelings and vacillating between them all. And so whether you choose or chose to watch the video, or whether you choose or chose to not watch the video, in the context of this sermon, it's important to understand that you are and still will be affected by this moment. Take a breath. Not watching the video doesn't, quote unquote, protect you, right? The awareness that another unarmed black man was murdered at the hands of the police, that information is traumatizing. Especially if you're a black person, especially if you have been charged with the care of black children. See, trauma can be ignored, but it is always stored. And so this is why each of us must be intentional and deliberate in releasing stress, in lowering our threshold for pain, in adopting practices that unload our nervous systems and allow our bodies to repair. Because these moments are going to happen. These living alarms are going to happen. These system overload moments are going to happen. And what we have the opportunity to do right now in the conditions and the way that society is set up right now is to make sure that we've developed and adopted these practices so that when these moments happen, we can hold a knowingness in the midst of the sadness. We can hold a knowingness in the midst of the anger. We can hold a knowingness in the midst of feeling unprotected, right? This is why my soul is anchored is important. See, what's interesting is when you think about how a boat that's anchored happens, it can drift, but the anchor is holding it. It's always going to bring it back in. It can never go too far. That's why we do these things that anchor us. That's why it's important that we engage in these practices that anchor us. That is why it's important that we continue to lean in to these things that anchor us. And here's the thing. This cannot be done alone. This cannot be done off on some island or in a secluded mountain. Yes, you could do that, and some people do that. They go off to an ashram and they, whatever, and that's nice. But that's stepping away from society, right? And what we're teaching and what I'm inviting you to understand is there's a way to live in this world, even when the conditions are unwanted, even when the conditions are absolutely unfavorable. Last week's message was inspired by how I came to learn Transcendental Meditation. And one of the things that I love, I say it to PY all the time, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, of course, is the soul that brings this technique to us and brings this technique to the West. But he was at a point in his career after living as a brilliant physicist, right? Now he had the opportunity in his life to really focus on spirituality. And so he goes off, right? He leaves the regular world to go off and had every intent that that's how he would end his life, that he would go off, live in the mountains, meditate, understand these techniques, reach enlightenment, if you will, right? Because he had lived in the world. He had done that part of his life. But there was an awareness that the world needs this meditation technique. And so he realized, I can't stay here. And so he just left, right? He just showed up in a city and just was like, I want to transform people's lives. I want to teach this meditation, right? And of course, he seemed kind of off because it was like, who is this man? Where did he come from? Right. But of course, it was out of that intention and that recognition that just being off in a mountain, being secluded in an island, yes, he had this delicious fruit, right? This delicious spiritual idea. But was it enough just for him to enjoy the taste of that fruit? He recognized that all of humanity could enjoy the taste of this fruit. And so my message to you today is that healing is a team sport. Healing is a team sport. You cannot do it alone. You are not asked to do it alone. And you will run into difficulties if you try to do it alone. As we came to the end of 2022 and I began to reflect on my year, I didn't really think too much about what I had accomplished or any of those things or how much money I made or any of those kind of physical expressions that may exist of prosperity or doing well. But what I was focused on and what filled me with the deepest gratitude was the team that I have attracted to support me in living whole, in living out this thing that we call wholeness. From my mentors, to my doctors, to my therapists, to my workout instructors, to my meditation teacher, to the authors of the books I've read, all of these souls are a part of my support system. And, I shared, I don't remember if it was in this series, I think it was sometime last year, but as I, went to the doctor, primary care, annual visit, and she's like, yeah, your blood pressure is elevated. We need to do something about it. I'm like, cool, right? Now, of course, I knew what to do because of, in terms of shifting my eating. Okay, fine. I know how to do that. And I'm grateful to people that I've learned from my mentors and teachers. Shout out to Dr. Greger and Nutrition Facts, right? Understanding the power of a plant-based diet. And then at the same time, I recognized, okay, there's this physical expression, and I cannot just address this on the physical level, right? As within, so without. As without, so within. And so I recognized that it was an opportunity to pay attention inward now. So what did I do? Reached out to my therapist, right? Because I recognize, there's stress is related to high blood pressure. And I can acknowledge that there's a lot of stress in my life. Okay, let's do that, right? I also recognized, right? One of the things that I talked about, I recognized that I had stopped doing yoga regularly, right? And so I recognized, there's an opportunity to bring that back into my life. And I'm grateful, right, for the asanas and for the routine that I've been given that I can practice easily and effortlessly each morning, right, as a part of my meditation experience, right? And then I also realized I could do other exercises that I've learned. When I say exercise, I don't mean physical exercises, but journaling and writing and so many other things. I could use music. Right? I started to lean in and understand that it wasn't just about addressing this thing physically, but it was important that I address it holistically. Right? And that is how healing was going to come forward. That's how healing was going to take place. And so all of these souls then that supported me are a reflection of the truth that my soul is anchored. Yes, I may drift off a ways. Yes, something may show up in my body as an indicator. Yes, something may show up in your body as an indicator. The ways of life may cause you to drift off a bit or a lot, but you have something that draws you back to the center. And being spiritually anchored and understanding that your soul is anchored is about learning to live spiritually centered. Not that you will always be in the center, but you have something that brings you back. So when I say healing is a team sport, I'm saying that you cannot live in this life as simply alone. You can't do this alone. So everything that we've talked about from week 1, system overload, for everything that we've talked about in week 2, pull over, relate, repeat, reframe. What does relate say? Relate says that you must connect yourself with people or a community or a space that instills and inspires hope and supports you in repeatedly practicing the things that will support you in sustained change and healing. It's very important. You cannot do this alone. You weren't designed to do this alone. And so if we understand this truth that you can't do it alone, you're not asked to do it alone, you weren't designed to do it alone, and you will run into difficulties if you try to do it alone, how do we embody this idea? Well, first, you must be willing to be supported. This is related to lowering your threshold for pain, which we talked about last week. And in last year, February 22, week 1, and I encourage you to revisit this sermon, More Than I Can Bear. What I shared in that sermon, I said, we are sometimes given things in life that are more than we can bear. So we have to unlearn this false idea that has been couched in spiritual language that God would never give you more than you can bear, or what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Those are lies. Those are false. And the truth is, at times, there are things that will show up in our lives that are simply more than we can bear. Now, why would that be? Particularly if God is love and this life is supposed to be good and goodness is flowing. Why would we be given something that's more than we can bear? Because this is how we learn to rely on others. This is how we learn to acknowledge our interconnectedness and make use of our interconnectedness, because this union and this interconnectedness is the foundation of life. This is one of the reasons why we take science. This is one of the reasons why we learn biology, because one of the things that we're learning, whether we're learning about the biology of our own bodies, or learning about plants, or we start to learn about the earth, and we start to understand the interconnectedness and how each thing depends on each other. That's not just out there in nature, right? That's not just out there in science, but we must also learn and practice and live from that same reality of interconnectedness. And so in order to attract a supportive team, you must unlearn this idea that if it's here, I can bear it alone. Instead, begin to practice, if it's here, there is support available for me to overcome this. There is support available for me to move through this. There is support available to me for me to find the answers. There is support available for me to get to the solution. There's support available for me to get to the other side. And so this willingness to be supported is really about unlearning this false idea of separateness. And it's interesting. I talked about it in week 1. I quoted A Course in Miracles. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And what does A Course in Miracles teach us very clearly? The one problem that needs to be solved is separation. This is the beauty of truth. The truth can be found everywhere. It leads you back to the same point. So we have to be willing to be supported, and being willing to be supported is letting go of any and all ideas of separation. Being willing to be supported is embracing interconnectedness. It is embracing the idea that I can rely on others because we are one in truth. And so once you have unlearned those old ideas and allowed yourself, stepped into that willingness to be supported, then second, you must look to what you already possess. Now that sounds tricky, right? Because wait, PG, you just said I need to rely on others. Why am I looking at what I possess? Well, this is different than doing it all alone. See, it may be, as I had this experience last summer, where I had a challenge, I had a problem, I had a difficulty, and I was trying to move through it, and I was writing and planning and trying to figure it out, and I kept hitting this wall, right? And I found myself very frustrated. The answer that led me out of the frustration was to a book that I had purchased the year before, that I hadn't read yet. So it may be that it's a book that you already own, that you forgot about, that has just been sitting around and you never got to reading it. There was something within you that knew that there was something beneficial there. There was something good there, but you just simply forgot about it. And so you may already possess it. Now, that wasn't something that came from you. It's the author or authors of the book and all of the things that supported their thinking that is actually supporting you. So you're not doing it alone, right? But this is something that's already in your possession. You begin to ask yourself questions like, what resources do I have? In the context of Celebration Spiritual Center, what resources do I have? Oh, I can attend a God talk, and I can ask a question, and I can receive free, loving, and available support from PY and PG. Oh, I can send a prayer request. This is why I talk about it when we talk about the prayer request. Sending a prayer request is actually acknowledging that willingness to be supported. That's acknowledging your interconnectedness and recognizing that even how prayer works, right? That you are recognizing and knowing that someone can be in New York and you could be in California, and their prayers can support you. Then also, of course, in the context of CSC, I can go to the YouTube channel. I can rewatch a sermon, or I can check out a sermon series that speaks to something that I may be going through right now. What resources do I have? It could be that you need to work out, but you're like, well, I really can't afford to join a gym. That's not a monthly expense I can add to my budget. Wonderful, right? But you may not realize, for instance, right? You could have just bought a new Apple device, an iPhone, a Apple Watch, or an iPad, right? Well, all new Apple devices come with 3 months of Apple Fitness for free. All of a sudden, what resources do I have? I have this thing already. You, again, may need to work out. You can't afford the gym membership right now, all good, but you have a Netflix subscription, and it just turns out that the Nike Training Club workouts are a part of your Netflix subscription now, and it's part of the platform at no cost. That's really true. If you didn't know that, right? Somebody probably needs to hear that. You were thinking about, oh, I want to do something different. There's all these Nike Training Club workouts, which are really awesome. I say that because I've used Nike Training Club workouts. That's available as a part of your Netflix subscription if you're already paying for that, right? But this is getting your mind to start to think about what is already in my possession? What do I already have? Not that it's coming from you, not that you're the generator of it, but so often, see, when we're in the place of fear, when we're in the place of not feeling supported, what that literally does is it shuts everything down in our awareness. And so it continues to perpetuate itself because you're thinking, oh, I'm fearful, I'm unprotected, I'm not safe, and then there are no resources. There's nothing that can protect me. Everything out here, I just see reasons to be scared. And so affirmatively, we understand that what we have to do is shift our thinking. Right? Now, we're not going to trick ourselves, right? We're not going to delude ourselves. And so we begin to ask this question, what resources do I have? And that begins to open our minds to then begin to look for it. Now, even if you still can't get to what it is specifically, we can think about it from the perspective of prayer. What resources do I have? You begin to speak out the word, God, life, universe, show me. Show me clearly show me. I know that there must be resources because I know support is. God is here now, and God is my unfailing support. Support is here now. We begin to affirm, and you can say, I allow myself to be supported now. I release every block to this knowing and accept support now. So we begin to use what we know in terms of affirmation and spiritual mind treatment. We begin to use what we know and affirm that support must be here now. So we say God is here now, and God neither comes nor goes, and God is support, your unfailing support. So support is here now. I open my eyes, I open my awareness, I open my mind, and I see it. I see it now. I have it now. Right? I've shared this story with many of you. It's coming to me now. When I was in Home Depot, I went to Home Depot looking for a part to fix our sink, and I went to the correct aisle. And went where I thought the part would be, and I didn't see it. And so I walked down the aisle looking, I didn't see it. I walked up the aisle looking, I didn't see it. And I remember saying in my mind, I was like, I don't see it. And I kept looking, I was like, I don't see it. I'm walking up and down, I don't see it. And so, of course, it is done unto us as we believe. I was literally creating my experience because the more I kept saying and affirming, I don't see it, the clearer I was going to be in not seeing it. And once I heard myself and realized I was thinking in my mind, I don't see it, and I realized how that was not beneficial, I began to affirm, I am seeing what I'm looking for. I am seeing what I'm looking for. I am seeing what I'm looking for. And I came right back to the very same spot that I began, and there was the part. It had been there all the time, right where I started. But I started from a vantage point of I don't see. And so it's important that in this moment, as we first acknowledge our willingness to be supported, as we first unlearn those traits and those habits and those ways of being that deny our interconnectedness, that don't allow us to rely on others, that heal those stories of how we tried to rely on somebody and they weren't dependable and they burned us. Heal and release those stories of maybe our caregivers and our elders, our parents who weren't able to support us in the ways that we needed to be supported. I read something recently that was really powerful for me as related to our parents. And it said that what we don't realize is that while we were growing up, our parents were growing up too. Right? And so we understandably were holding our parents and our caregivers to a standard that they simply had not reached because they were growing up too. And so we start to release all of those stories, right? This is why we have forgiveness practices. This is why we learn to examine the stories and shift and change our beliefs. This is why we do all of that work, because we need to be in a space where we can be supported, because life is actually interconnected. And then as we do that, this is then how we receive that support. Sometimes it is as simple as that problem shows up, that pain, that frustration shows up, as in my experience. And I began to look for resources and realize I had a book that might support me. It was the perfect text at the right time, but I'd had that text for over a year. Right? It could be something as simple as you already have a subscription to something and didn't realize all of the other features that are available. And so finally, after you have looked to what you already possess, as you receive, you must give. Yes, we must learn to accept and receive support. And for the same reasons, we must learn to serve and support each other. Service and support, however, are not sacrifice. So in this stage, this is another piece of unlearning that must happen. That is the unlearning on this side of the coin. You're not helping the less fortunate. You're embodying the interconnectedness of all life, just as the rays of the sun serve and support us, just as the drops of rain serve and support us, so we must serve and support each other. Imagine raindrops talking about how it's helping the less fortunate ground. Yeah, I'm going out here to volunteer today. Me and the rain clouds, we getting together to go help the folks over at the shelter, right? It seems crazy, right? Imagine the rays of the sun fussing and complaining about all those people on earth that just can't seem to get it together and produce their own sunlight. Seems like they could pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and create some light so I can take a break. So we're not talking about sacrifice. What we're talking about here is serving and supporting, because we must be willing to complete the circle. Sometimes we're giving, sometimes we're receiving. Sometimes we're inhaling, sometimes we're exhaling. But to the sage, as the Tao Te Ching tells us, all of life is a movement toward perfection. And the root of that word, if you look at the translation, is wholeness. All of life is a movement toward wholeness, unity, interconnectedness, this unbroken circle. And so as we are willing to be supported, as we are willing to unlearn those false stories about more than we can bear and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, then we invite that support in. And that invitation can start with a simple question. What do I already possess? What resources do I have? It can open us to looking at something that we didn't realize we had. It can open us, to remembering something that we already had. It can open us to seeing what we're already paying for and see how it benefits us now. And it even gets us to this place of understanding, as we read in the scriptures, before you even called, I answered. Right? In truth, the answer, the solution, the provision is already near. It's already something you're aware of, right? Because it has to be the path of least resistance, right? It can't be something that's some great big obstacle. It's like, oh, well, okay, I'm willing to be supported. And the support is like, okay, go travel 10,000 miles and climb this mountain and traverse dangerous conditions, and then you'll get the support. That's not how love works. It's always going to be something that's readily available. It's always going to be something that's close at hand. And finally, freely you have received, freely you must give. Where and when you are led to support, where and when you are led to serve. And so this is why it's important, going back, thinking about the series in March of last year, right? Love people, understanding then what that looks like, right? There's a whole posture of loving people and embodying love and holding space to ensure that you're not sacrificing. But healing is a team sport. And in a team, every person and every position is valued and valuable, is necessary. When even one person is missing, you feel the difference. We see that all the time. For me, as a basketball fan, we see that all throughout the season. Injury changes the story of a team. They could be going on and winning and doing wonderful things. A key player gets injured, and it's like they're a completely different team. Right? Every piece is necessary, and that's the beauty of team. When you see all of these seemingly different, disparate parts come together, and they produce a powerful result. You cannot do it alone. You were not designed to do it alone. You were not asked to do it alone. Doing it alone is counter to nature. And you will run into difficulties if you try to do it alone. So attract your team. Establish this knowingness in your heart and mind, and they will come. And when I say they will come, the forms will vary. It may be people, it may be places, communities, it may be resources, things, it may be different types of guidance. It will look and manifest in many different forms. But the support will be real, and healing is inevitable as a result of that support. I've mentioned a few sermon series today, and I want to encourage you, as I was reflecting on this series, there's a common theme that's been coming through really since the start of this pandemic, and especially as we began 2020 and 2021, January of 2021, the Deep Roots series marries very well with this series, understanding that rooted in the African proverb, when the roots are deep, we need not fear the wind. Winds are inevitable, but deep roots support us in moving through that experience. And then in March of 2021, the third installment of that Deep Roots series, pray, meditate, appreciate, rest. These are all anchoring practices. I encourage you to go back to that series. And then last year, February, it's all about love. Love God, love you, love people. So January was love God. February was love you. And so understanding that our soul is anchored is all about understanding and being rooted in self-love practices. So I encourage you to go to that series. And then, as I mentioned earlier, then March of 22, love people. Because if the completion of this circle is that as we are supported, we support others. As we receive, we give, and we receive, and we give, and we receive. We have to understand what loving people really means, what it looks like, what's most beneficial, how to get out of our way, understanding that we're allowing God in, through, and as us to be the thing that's actually supporting. For it is not I, but it is God within us that does the work always. Understanding what love really is and how it manifests in that context. These practices and these sermons will support you in living anchored, remaining anchored. Because just as we have seen just in this past week with this news, this footage that has sent folks in a tailspin, we understand that we must have things present in our lives that support us in moving through them. Not running away, not burying our head in the sand, but loving, rooted, grounded, centered, knowing that leads to practice. So to this truth, I say amen, ashe, and so it is.
Ah, yes, my soul is anchored. It's a beautiful affirmative thought. It's a beautiful message series to support you in living that thought. There is so much happening in the world that could get our attention. We cannot do it alone in the sense that, yes, we are individualized expressions of this one mind, but it is one mind that is thinking at the same time, that is looking for and receiving the support that it needs at one time. We are not here to be an island. Right. Unto ourselves. Right. We are not here to bear it all by ourselves. And if you are in a black or brown body, you have bared it all for a very long time. It is no longer required. It never was required. Not to be a spiritual being, not to even be a human being, that you should bear, that you should realize. The acronym PAIN means pay attention inward now. It means realize that I don't have to do what I have done in the past. I don't have to be the one that carries it all. I don't have to be the one that fixes it all. I can receive the help that I need from the one mind. The one mind expressing as you, the one mind expressing as PG. I can receive. That's what the series is about. I can stay anchored in times of distress when the waves seem so big. I'm anchored to something. I'm anchored to this God mind that is everyone's mind. And so I reach out when I need support, and I love myself when I realize I need support. There's nothing wrong with needing support. Individualized expression or not, we are all part of the one mind. That's how we get to actually practice being connected and moving away from fear and separation. Thank you, PG.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And so now it is time for giving. You see the information here on your screen, and you've seen it throughout the stream. It's very easy to give to CSC. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500. There is a $10 minimum to text to give. But what is most important it's most important that you give what feels good. It's most important that you find your joy number and give that with ease, give that without pain, give that free of judgment, give that free of guilt, give that free of shame. That is how you experience the true blessing of giving. And it even goes back to thinking about the sermon, this idea of giving and receiving. That's what we must understand, that when we're giving, it must be free of all of that stuff, right? And so when we understand this beautiful relationship of the inhale and exhale, that's really all we're doing, right? And financial giving is just another way to tap into that reality, another way to express that reality, another way to embody that reality. And that is why giving is a spiritual practice. So giving from that place, then we can affirm all the money that I use,
all the money that I use,
returns to me multiplied.
Returns to me multiplied.
In a never-ending cycle.
In a never-ending cycle.
Of increase.
Of increase.
And enjoyment.
And enjoyment.
Yes, yes. We are grateful for your continued support of the mission vision of CSC, the purpose of CSC. We are grateful that CSC continues to touch and inspire and empower hearts and minds all over the world. And we will continue to lovingly do that thing. So we encourage you to have an awesome remainder of your Sunday. We encourage you to have an even better week. We look forward to you joining us on Wednesday morning for the Momentum Prayer Call. And if we don't connect with you on Wednesday, then we will connect with you again next Sunday, first Sunday in February, as we begin a new message series. I look forward to connecting with you then. Bye for now.
Bye for now.